Greetings, I am Lies and I use she, her.
And I am Scandal and I use they, them.
And let's play a game together!
Ah-ha-ha!
Welcome back to the Arcana and this beautiful owl! It seems the very essence of my mind. Seas. The moment is gone and it takes flight for the towers.
Also, my brain is like, it sees! Like it grabs.
I know, it grabs. Seizes my mind and flies off with it. I needed that.
Bird, I'm beautiful.
Chandra?
That was a question going, who's Chandra, basically? She's
Chandra?
one friend of the Countess. Old friend, I say.
Why do you look startled?
Actually, like a little sort of like, ooh, that's awkward. Should they need you here? We might even get a private audience. Except that you're also like, we're trying to avoid, you're having such weird behavior in, like, it's super contradictory that I cannot decide what you're doing.
Asra? Why would we not be able to get a private audience? Most of the time that I've spent with her has been essentially alone.
Because, potentially she could date me, but
when it's both of
or
us,
I could date them.
You need to be, I guess, more public? Maybe?
Yes, that's good. Trying to explain everything we need to her will be delicate. Sure, that was my first thought. My first concern is this swarm of beetles, but that's pretty straightforward, honestly.
Even though it's been swirling about the castle, you don't think she has noticed them?
We'll need to take care of what we say, how, and when we say it.
I feel like
we talk about him.
There might be a problem with Faust just blurting things out. Get!
Banana! But the thing is that you hearing Faust, that doesn't mean everybody else can hear.
That's true. But at times, I don't think I would think about that. I don't think Kohai would either.
I don't think either.
Just going, it's that thing of going, you have a dog that talks to you, but no one else can hear. But, one of your friends can, and you forget that other people can't all the time.
Honestly, I think this is a little more fun. Like, I wish, again, that Faust didn't feel like a prop.
Yes.
Basically, just sort of and there's nothing necessarily for having characters, so it's a character that adds levity. Yes. It adds some joy and hilarity. It's a comic relief.
Yes.
Yeah, and the thing is that can have a certain tone, and of course, sometimes characters literally don't interact with it because it's the joke that's important. It's not the fact that it actually happened, right? So in a real conversation, you'd be like, yeah, we want people to interact with that character, but so much, I'm like, Faust is such a integral part of basically his design, and the fact that you never hear any other, basically, I guess, familiar's thoughts. I think that's actually really important. Faust is literally the only one you even, just as a player, in all the other routes, we've never talked to any of the others.
You know what? That's a really good point, honestly. Of just going, there, the MC can also hear Faust speaking. And the other love interests can hear their familiar speaking, but we can't. What does that suggest?
Which is also interesting. I feel like that would be an interesting depth of character. And again, that's why I'm kind of confused about how, Faust is not treated as more of an involved character or another aspect of Asra. It's more just again, I'm here to crack the jokes. I'm fine with comic relief.
And
be cute.
Right? Most cute.
But, there's a point, too, where you start developing the comic relief character.
And they turn more into a person?
I would imagine in Asra's route, actually Faust would have the most character of all of them, because you spend the most time with Asra. So therefore, Faust has more time to develop as a, quote, character.
Also, you know Faust really well, because you grew up with them.
I know! Well, I mean, just in this route, though. You did in the other ones, because obviously you were with Asra, and then you ran off to go whoever you're...
In all routes,
quote,
you've grown up with Faust.
Yes, period.
But it doesn't make her your familiar, because as far as I understand, that's a fairly exclusive thing. And just because Asra is your teacher doesn't mean that would be the reason you could hear her speaking. I mean, maybe he taught you specifically how to listen to her, but then you'd think that might bleed over into how to listen to other magical animals.
Right. Well, that's actually a good point. I'm like, how can you just listen to her? Anyway, so when we talk about him.
Who is he?
Who is he? He's a mess.
Asra's gaze pierces past my shoulder, toward the marble arch at the end of the servant's path.
There's a
I look over my shoulder. The thick air underneath it, I can totally see it, whirls and churns under the force of his stare. The twin goat heads seem to leer back. So he's looking over my shoulder. I assume I also look over my shoulder.
But somehow you also know that he's looking over your shoulder while you're simultaneously looking at him. And then he's looking over, I don't know. Okay,
I follow his gaze, but also see what he's doing with his gaze. I have an incredible range of vision. My peripheral vision is
so this is what's
glorious.
called first-person omniscient, and I really don't like it. I actually was having a conversation with my friend about that at the table, and I was like, it occurs to me, I don't like this, because it is very confusing to tell what is the character and what isn't the character.
What's really funny...
What's actually going on and what the character is just making up, so it feels like you don't need the character then as an unreliable narrator, because it's already confusing as fuck anyway.
Well, see, in Omniscient, they're theoretically always telling you the truth, but telling you everything. Right. But this discussion came up, funny enough, because I was, I brought up a TikTok of, men writing women badly.
Yes!
And it was written in first person omniscient. So there's this TikToker, and I do not know her name, because I don't remember the names of most of the ones I follow at all. A lot of them just have interesting usernames. Anyway, one of the things she does is she reads basically really, really basically bad passages, as far as scientifically bad, functionally bad, literally not functional kind of passages of
or ones where they're trying to be incredibly hot or sexy, or here's my purple prose up the ass, and they're really did you actually just listen to what you wrote?
And specifically in cases of sexual things and sexy times.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really funny because I had one of these on, and we realized that the man describing the woman in this case and what happened to her was written in first-person omniscient. And I was just like, that's really confusing that he can tell what's happening to the inside of her body from a distance.
Yes.
And not I suppose this. It's this is what happened. Anyway, so there's that.
There are eyes and ears everywhere within these walls.
Everywhere?
That is a movie line that they said somewhere.
Maybe I should not put my hands on things because it would touch eyes and ears?
Well... it starts closing.
Too much stimulus. Yeah! Eyes everywhere. Hold on.
I got it.
To the wall. Close the eyes.
I've solved it. There are no more eyes. And also the ears don't like it, because then you stick your fingers in the holes and it's like wet willies for days.
No.
Because you just went over the eyeballs, so you have all that moisture.
Oh God, that's terrible. Okay, that's terrible imagery. Vines that are not made of eyeballs lick at our ankles, which I assume are not also tongues, as we steal down the opposite direction.
Eyes, ears, tongue. Wait, what? Honestly, that following in order is
really funny.
Eyes, ears, and tongue.
And licking. As we steal down in the opposite direction from, I assume, the arch, into the maze.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't take long for us to find our way. Soon, we duck into the canopy of a sleepy willow tree in silence. Which I think is on the other side of the maze, because in the maze there's a gazebo maybe, but possibly only in some routes. But so I think we find our way.
I think the thing is we had to extensively go into NADIA'S thing to actually find the gazebo, because I don't think they mentioned the gazebo.
I don't think it's been mentioned in the other route. No, only NADIA'S.
Only NADIA'S.
A willow tree in silence. Asra parts the frond-like branches to look around. Other than bird song, there is only the babbling of the fountain beyond. There is nothing to see or sense in any way. Nothing smells like anything. Nothing looks like anything. Only birdsong and the void.
Okay, so sometimes I think it's very funny. So and this is not directly a criticism of the usage of the word. I just think it's funny that linguistically we have this where we say babbling water. And my brain is and then there are just words running over that make sound. So you have these voices, these sounds going, just blah, 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 blah. How is it going today? I don't know where I'm going. Oh, do you see up that men's skirt?
Or they're just, they're literally just going like just randomly.
Yeah. Yeah. They just make up nonsense, yes.
Could be. They're all the Charlie Brown, person on the phone.
Oh, no, those are the adults that go.
Yep, that's the one. A trombone or whatever it is.
It is a trombone, yes, if
amazing.
I remember correctly.
Okay. But yeah, no sensory experiences except hearing the brook, the fountain, and the birds.
Just it. The Countess hasn't been sleeping well. I don't know. We literally really haven't been goddamn talking to her, and we only talked to her once in the prologue, which was a while ago.
When you say she hasn't been sleeping well, do you mean since I last saw her, which was a couple of days ago, or do you mean in general, as an overall statement? She said she was having bad dreams, and I haven't spent any time with her since then, only just been here to castle until you took me away. That's
a good question. So I find it to be entertaining, do we recall if it was just, I've been having these dreams lately, and they've all been bad, basically. Or has it been explicitly, I can't sleep? Because I thought her problem, if I remember right, was that she just had bad dreams. Mm-hmm. Because I gotta tell you, as someone who's had some really incredibly strong nightmares, that doesn't mean you're gonna you don't keep sleeping.
It also doesn't mean that you don't wake up feeling rested if terrified.
Uh-huh.
Because I've had that one before.
I've had that too. So I'm like...
Where sometimes you're like, I am dead, I'm completely awake. I have no feelings of sleepiness, tiredness, weariness, anything. And it might be a stunned adrenaline awake, but also you still, even when it calms down, feel well rested. You're not thinking about it, but it's there.
Yeah. And there's also that thing too, where I'm like, I do like that it's actually a literary trope, I think, of where they go, if you're having nightmares, it means you're not sleeping well. And I'm like,
those don't have to be the same.
They're actually, in fact, not mutually exclusive.
And true. It's true.
That is Annie turns.
Aye. Are you trying to demonstrate, Faust?
Faust
gently
reaches over,
tickles chin. New. Falls over. Punk. God, I love it when snakes lift up and then fall over because they lose their balance. They're like, I'm so good at that. And you're like,
I love that behavior. Like, it is definitely a search and look behavior. Like, I'm trying to see what's going on around me. But if you see snakes, they raise all the way up, and then they have the little heads basically above the grass, usually was the idea. So you only see specific kinds of snakes usually do it.
Yeah.
So it's not a common thing every snake does, but it's really cute. And it's usually just a curious investigative thing. It's
and
not
sometimes,
really
especially when they're learning to do it or when something unusual happens, they will knock themselves over.
It's super funny.
I say, there's also though, but yeah, in the way that's not consistent to all snakes, it's just snakes that have that kind of environment or have evolutionarily developed from that kind of environment. There's also other animals that do it too. There's a specific breed line of dogs called sighthounds. And what they do is they stand up and look. They're not scent hounds. And so they don't find with their noses, they find with their eyeballs. And they are really good with their eyeballs. But if they're in tall environments, you just be like this swooshing through the grass and then suddenly this dog just standing on his back legs and just staring at you.
And it's actually really funny, so that you mentioned the sighthound thing. So in relation to being able to see, there is literally a type of jet plane that, due to the fact of how ridiculously fast it is or whatever it is, they actually have to specifically design the nose because otherwise they wouldn't be able to see, so they're curved downwards. And it looks really fucking silly. But I'm like, it's basically the Greyhound airplane.
Because
so that sort of shape.
You need to see.
So it needs to basically, though, also like swoop in a specific direction for sight, which is exactly what the Greyhound faces are basically bred to do. You don't have a straight face, you have a curved face. Right. Chandra might have trouble waking her.
You think she is asleep up in the tower at this time of day? I guess maybe she sleeps in. I know nothing about her sleeping schedule. Do you know her sleeping schedule?
I mean, it could be an assumption. Again, well, she's not sleeping well, so she's sleeping all the time.
Or she's definitely sleeping in because she tossed and turned during the night and could only fall asleep once the sun came up.
Right.
I've seen that assumption too, going, you have scary dreams or a poor sleeping experience when it's dark, and you can only finally fall asleep once it's light. And I am not familiar with that one at all, really.
Like, I've
seen it in books a lot, but not in real life.
I have had it happen a couple of times if the dreams are bad enough, basically, at night. You're like, I can't sleep, shit is freaking me out. You know, like when I've watched a horror movie or something like that, and it just keeps being this persistent force. And then, basically, you get closer towards where there's going to be light, and you're like, okay, I can finally relax because my brain can finally stop being paranoid enough that it's going, this is not going to happen. It's fine, you can see.
Anyway, we assume she's going to wake up.
Why don't you stay in the garden for now first? Find somewhere to hang. Hang out, as the cool kids say.
So if Chandra was able to wake her up immediately, then Faust could stay with you. But if not, Faust should hang out somewhere?
Or are these completely two separate things?
Sounds like they are directly related, but also sounds like they are not related.
Actually, that would be an interesting criticism. While I appreciate what the Arcana has done, and I understand why visual novels like it, otome games, dating games aimed towards women, what they've done is that they go, well, everybody basically can only have this much dialogue.
Yes.
Because it has to fill the box. And I'm like, actually, for my friend, and even for my own reading experience, that has sometimes really tripped me up. Because you're like, is this a, quote, new paragraph? / change of tone and voice, or is this all one uniform, basically, statement? Or basically, tone of voice, we're all talking specifically about this thing, so in reference to this thing.
When you have visual novels structured like this, where there is a small dialogue box, and you can't see a larger block of text, and sometimes they continue the thought through several blocks of text, and other times they don't, it can be very hard for me to go, without a distinctive literary, or like subject transition in the literature, are we still talking about the same thing? Are these two things related? Or did you just change the subject and there's no indicator?
Right.
Because, especially in this one, it will do both, it seems. And so there isn't a standard for this one story.
And that's okay. Like, it doesn't need to. And like I said, because the space is really small. Like, there is the difficulty of being able to get everything into the one space. So...
Go hang yourself.
Go hang around. It's very important. Go hang around. Okay.
Obediently, she slips off of his arm into a hole at the root of the tree, and out of
I
sight.
thought that was an invitation, not an obligation.
Why don't you do this?
Hey, Faust, you know what? Since it's probably going to be a bit, why don't you go do this thing? Because that's exactly how I read that. Like,
yes. So the thing is what my friend's talking about here is you don't obediently interact with an invitation. If someone says, "Would you like to come in?" Obediently, they came in. That is not an obedient action. They accept the invitation.
Yeah, that's an invitation. That's why I'm like, wait.
Now, if you say, "Get in," then and they do so, that's being obedient.
But the thing is, why don't you do this? I'm like, was Asra then just sort of being weirdly passive aggressive?
Or he's just going, "This is a statement. Why don't you do that?" Which can be not necessarily passive aggressive, but an indirect way of communicating.
No, and I know that, but like, see, he's very good at indirect. I know
also,
but I'm like, it seems sort of mean.
A hole at the root of the tree is totally hanging around.
Anyway, it's fine.
Curls into a burrow.
Yes.
I round the other side of the broad trunk, running my fingers over the bark. A shudder runs up Asra's spine, which I can tell from
the
here,
other side of the broad trunk.
And without potentially looking at him, and also knowing specifically his spine, not he just shivers.
Okay,
I'm curious.
All right.
I
just felt your touch.
Through the tree.
Honestly, that would have been really funny where suddenly, like, you go over, I trace the thing, and suddenly you have Asra going, ha! You know, there's this, and you're like, I peek around the side. Asra?
Peeks around the tree. What happened?
Are you okay? Asra, your touch. That was your fingers, yes?
On my spine! I look down at my hand. Under my fingertips, at the dips and valleys engraved in the bark. Kohai, my name. My magic glistens along the symbols and fades. I accidentally, at laying down height, touched my name while walking around the tree. Because remember, when we saw our name carved in the tree, we were laying down on the ground. It was down there.
Yeah, no, I know, friend. I was actually going to mention.
So Kohai is standing up and walking around the tree and touch it, and they nonetheless have their arm down low enough.
They have become slender, man.
Yes, either they're walking around the tree with their knees bent and doing a little like little bouncy walk when you're walking really short, like in a pool or something.
They're like, what I felt like today was doing the crab. I
got down really low and I did the squat walk because I was looking at where Faust went, and then I touched. But like, I think they forgot what height the name was at.
I think they completely forgot what height the name is at, and that's really fucking funny.
That is,
because that seemed like that was such a huge deal.
It was, because you lay on the ground and you see right by your head your name carved.
Let alone the fact that it was actually one of those things that your character, because the main character is basically specifically mentioned going, I want an answer for this, and that never happened.
Now here's another question.
Like, why would you forget that? That was a huge deal.
Maybe the name is carved in the tree twice, because we said that one had Asra's magic.
Oh!
Maybe you carved this one yourself?
Let's find out!
Alright. Asra drops the willow weepers to stand beside me, because he had moved them aside and held them the whole time, I guess.
I guess.
Wincing at the painful carving?
It's painful?
I did not know that, but I can tell now that he is wincing at it, yes.
He can read the trees. He speaks for the trees.
Hi, Asra, the Lorax.
Asrax.
Oh, God.
Hi, you know by now, don't you? That your first memory of me wasn't the first time we met. Except that we have... Okay.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Okay, so I have to say, for Asra's entire fucking route, I gotta tell you that actually this is not entirely clear. The only reason we've really been able to put that together is because we played the other routes. And in my opinion, based off of what we've run into, that's not exactly... Because the thing is they've been so imprecise with it, and I was going, well, it could be this thing, well, it could be that thing, and I'm like, it is weird double talk, and also we're going, this is the word of God, and then also then we're going to completely contradict ourselves. It's really confusing. So, no, actually, it is not the first time that I realized...
Do I realize that? Not really.
And now you have actually given me a direct answer.
So I guess...
Because that was the whole mystery, actually, in the very beginning. So this is now after, actually, I think, finally answering that question from the very beginning. We were like, holy fuck, why is my name here?
Going, we knew each other before you can remember.
Yep.
All right.
Except that he's answering it really indirectly in classic Asra style.
And you now understand this. I know. That's an answer.
That is a... You now understand this? No, I know.
No, I know.
That's it. That's an assertion. No, I know. Basically.
That image at the very beginning of my hazy memory. The sight of his face. I had already known him then. He nods softly to me saying I know. and takes
well, it's
my
not
hand.
like a harsh nod,
Meaning,
so like
because
a snap.
he didn't nod to my thoughts, which is what it sounded like.
Yeah.
This was the thing. It sounds like he's agreeing with your thoughts.
Oh,
so I'm
I see your
specifying
point.
that he's not agreeing with those
okay.
thoughts.
Sometimes I also find that funny. Okay, I think we pointed out before, we're like, why are people acting like we said something? We've literally just been sitting here doing nothing.
Yeah, there is sometimes where the MC has been thinking in the various routes, and someone will acknowledge their thoughts, and it's like,
really weird.
They didn't say anything. I say they because in this case, I don't know the genders of your MCs, and all of ours have been they, them. Mm-hmm. Because we are not one gender together.
We are not together combined. We do not one single gender make.
We don't
Which is probably also, we've at least had, I would say at least socially, probably more what people would read as basically femme-leaning presentation-wise. Not necessarily that they are, but people would go, oh, you look like you're a woman. Or if it was going to be, or they have basically a more feminine style.
I don't know that about Nerd. Nerd's pretty neutral.
Nerd, though, is much more quiet and soft. In that way, that's not considered to be masculine.
That's fair. He nods softly and...
Which is why I said femme-aligned, not necessarily, mask. Oriented, which is so dumb. Why can't men be soft?
And takes my hand.
Hand?
As I stare at the lines of my name in his irregular script. No, we forgot how high the name was on the tree. Because it's now up where I can touch it by walking around and brushing my hand on the tree. And it's his script, but my magic somehow now.
Was Asra's handwriting irregular?
No, usually he has fabulously beautiful script as far as I know.
Was it like super tiny? Wasn't that the thing?
Something
or is
like
that was that Nadia?
I think Nadia
Nadia's very weird and loopy.
Has the loopy, fruity, beautiful writing.
I don't remember, but
I don't remember his being irregular or scribbly.
That could also be like I was having an emotional time, so you'll find out.
You know how carefully I try to hide it all from you, thinking it would hurt you.
Why?
Why do you think... Okay.
We're back to
Why do you think it will hurt someone that they don't remember something?
I don't.
Also, okay, so memory, again, my mother has memory problems. My mother has lost tons of her memory throughout her life and has a seizure disorder where she frequently loses chunks and sometimes gets some of it back. Now, she isn't like a non-functioning person. When I say she's lost a huge chunk of her memory, it's not her skills, it's events in her life.
Yes.
Okay?
So it's like,
important distinction.
So it's the difference between I know how to open a door and I remember specifically opening the door to go to a birthday party.
Exactly. And so she's like, I don't remember the birthday party, and I don't remember who was there, and I don't remember meeting you, but I still know how to cut a cake.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so that's my mom's particular brand of memory loss. But the thing is in my experience with her and knowing her friends and the people who know her and watching them throughout my childhood and now some of my adult life, the only time she ever felt bad, unhappy, or hurt by not remembering something, like bar none, the only time was when someone else used it to shame her. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, hang on. Sorry, my brain just... Because I was trying to think about in relation to the amnesia trope, right? It's very common, particularly in romance. So this, again, these tropes aren't bad. They're just considered tropes, okay? Yes. So I'm just discussing.
They're just a common archetype that you can say includes generally these things.
But usually what they are is they are actually used, one, to introduce a lot of mystery, and two, especially if you're going to try to encourage the reader, whether directly or more indirectly, to kind of sort of self-insert or
develop
push yourself.
Their own ideas.
Yep, and sort of feel more personally invested in the story as a result. I was like, why is this so common? And I've completely fucking lost my train of thought. That actually makes me angry. I'm like, no, I liked that. Hang on.
So something about using loss of memory to shame you. Go ahead.
Okay, so one of the things that sort of annoys me is in relation to it is being like, why then, especially in stories that try to encourage you to basically put yourself in the situation, do they not have, say in a game like this where you, quote, have more options, give you the chance to actually develop and choose who you are?
Yeah, there's that one.
Because the thing is in this, pretty much in every single route, there's, I would say honestly, very little that you can truly interact with. Like, there's more than you can in some games, but also, and you have like, as other people say, you have the, quote, 2 different endings, and you can choose kind of different outcome, like different, basically, scenarios.
There are very tiny pieces where you can say, Asra taught me how to do this, I don't know how to do this.
Yes.
But like 2 or 3 times per route.
Yeah, well, and I was also going to say that, but that also never comes into play. You essentially, to me, more or less have more of the same character because But that's also hard to say. Like, we haven't specifically gone and played going, we're going to play this route and we're going to do this one. Like, initially when we started this, we didn't even know that they had 2 different endings, right?
Honestly, it was a spoiler to find out there, 1, was 2 endings, and 2, that there was only 2 endings.
And the thing is that doesn't mean their spoiler is bad. Okay, so I'm going to say here, spoilers are not bad things necessarily at all. The thing is that we wanted to know that nothing about it because we were concerned that it would affect basically our own kind of gameplay. Because we were trying to analyze, and we are still trying to analyze and critique and sort of discuss basically plot, structure, character, etc. So there is that question that I have, of like, why wouldn't you then do more? Because the amnesia plot, to me, unless you're going to basically reintroduce who the character is, like in a regular romance novel, to even the reader, because the mystery is trying to figure out who is this character that you're following, and what is this drama and all this shit around them.
Either you should learn a lot about who they are, or you should be able to develop who they are.
Exactly.
That one. Okay.
Yes.
And then I was going to say...
so for your mum, and remembering the things in memory, and how much drama there is in people trying to...
The thing is there's never been any drama about it. And she had a lot of friends who had memory problems too, because you end up connecting with those people, especially through medical experiences. And again, nobody was upset about losing their memories until someone else said, you need to be upset about this because I'm upset at you for not remembering.
Maybe that's why Asra literally refuses to answer you, because he's like, but I'm upset about it and I think you should be. And your character's like, I just want to understand because my name is here. What is this about?
Or I'm upset about it and I assume you will be.
That's what I mean. I'm upset about it.
You should be is different than I assume you will be.
Oh, well the thing is, so assumption though can go into should. Well, I'm upset, so clearly you are. That sort of thing. Not assuming you will be, but like, of course you should be, because it is upsetting.
Right. And it doesn't have to be. And the thing is like, in a lot of cases with people who are differently abled, who have health complications, who are not your standard low maintenance able-bodied and, neurotypical individual, there can be a lot of people who are more in those categories of healthy and quote, your average person that go, but you must be so unhappy about your experience and it must be so bad for you. Oh my God. And it's like,
oh my God, what is it like to be blind? I don't know. I have always been blind.
Yes.
Like it's that sort of thing. I don't know. I have never had this memory before. What?
Yes.
These memories don't exist for me. Oh my God, you don't remember your childhood? It's not upsetting me. You don't have to panic. I just don't remember.
That one, I'd be so upset if I couldn't walk. You know what? I don't want to be so upset because I've never been able to walk, or 2, I'm living my life. I don't have time to think about that.
Which is actually fair. I've heard, I actually knew several people who are kind of like, I don't really like hanging around with able-bodied people because they keep telling me what my experience should be. And I'm like, I have always lived like this. Stop it. I am not depressed. Stop trying to make me unhappy. Stop trying to make me sad.
I'm fine. I'm fine. And then if I'm fine, I'm such a trooper. No, I'm just fine.
All right. I'm a person.
Hurt you.
And then... this is right here. It's amazing that I could forget.
Even when I reminded you, not only like 3 days ago.
Wait, what? Did you just completely change what you were talking about?
I mean,
did he really truly? No. Did he truly say though? I was trying to forget so that it wouldn't hurt you. That was not what he started out with.
I was trying not to talk about it. Okay. And I was trying to hide it so it wouldn't hurt you.
Right.
But then I forgot that this was here, so I didn't hide this from you.
Oh, okay.
But also, Kohai then going, you didn't remember to hide this from me, the thing I asked you about 3 days ago.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do you not remember, Asra, that I asked you about this name? I know it's like 2 feet higher now, but it's the same name.
I don't think Kohai is that short.
The name generally travels around in tree magically.
Oh, that would be so, because it is done magically, so basically it's a soft it's a carved magic object.
And it just wanders around.
So it's a wandering name.
That would be really fun.
Honestly, that'd also be horrifying, because you imagine Nadia wandering around and being like, what the fuck is that?
But like, see my height? I'm not particularly tall.
No, I know.
But that's about, my hand is at least 2 feet from the ground, or about 2 feet from the ground, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm just running my hand along a tree, that lifts it up a little bit as well. So if the name was down on a root by your head, that's lifting up 2 or 3 feet without being particularly short.
That's true.
Anyway, that's my conjecture.
Okay, that's fair. Okay. I can't math. I can't
forget.
It's fine.
The place my mind was in. Last time I was here, I missed you so much. I took it out on literally everyone around me.
Including this tree.
I'm going to carve a name into. When it rained loud enough, I could lean against this tree and call out for you as many times as I wanted.
That sounds terrible.
That sounds like you were hit as such a... Again.
Ow.
And what I did is I took it out on everything around me, including Julian, and including... God, I can't...
Muriel.
Including Muriel.
Julian, Muriel, and anyone else I knew.
Uh-huh.
And the level of going, I could just call for you. You mean scream and no one could hear you? That sounds like... That
Also, like...
Deeply unhappy.
One, I guess it would be, no one could hear me, Asra. There's lots of hedges, there's trees, they absorb sound. Two, also going like, how heavy was this rain? Was it very heavy rain to absorb the sound of your voice?
When
That's
it rained
really
loud enough. So yeah, when it was a deluge.
Like Asra, I'm drowning!
The thing is, he's under the willow tree, so he's much protected from the roar of the rain.
And the willow trees block sound actually really well.
So you're in there in a protected area, and yeah, no one outside can hear you.
Okay, so this is why a lot of people, at least that I was exposed to, make out under willow trees. If you do not know the willow tree make out thing, it is totally a thing where they would be like, I remember reading books, I remember watching movies where they would be like, here's the really romantic thing, and you're by the willow tree where no one can hear you, or you're under the willow tree where no one can, like,
even in The Little Mermaid, they go under the willow tree for the romantic song and moment. And it's not just about the elegance of the fronds and the secluded environment of, you suddenly feel like you're in a room. It is genuinely about several types of privacy.
Yes, it is.
All right.
And I always find that to be very funny where people are like, oh, it's so cute and romantic. I'm like, I get that too, but it is also kind of horny, which can be romantic, because horny can be romantic. Romantic also
deeply romantic and sweet and all kinds of things. Horny.
We are sex positive on this channel. Do not shame.
I was gonna say horny is not a bad thing in any way.
No.
Like, and it can be a super exciting, warm, fun thing to share with your partner. Honestly, like flirting and the spiciness of it often involves a flavor of horny.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. He rests his forehead against the bark. The careful shape of my name. What was I doing then?
Hang on. So first of all, it's irregular, and it sounds like it's unhappy, and now it's careful shape of my name.
His irregular scrawled handwriting, the very careful, that creates the very careful shape of my head.
What else?
Also, I walk around the tree and I touch the name with my hand, and he shivers. I look at the name under my hand. He now reaches out, he now leans forward and puts his head on the name. Did I take my hand off the name? Did he come around to this side of the tree with me? Did I walk all the way around back to the side of the tree with him to touch the name, but I went the long way around?
Right.
Like, you don't have to tell me where these people are placed.
But the
thing is, I walked away from him to go around the tree and touch the name, and you were separated, so there was a more profound moment of going, whoa, he had a reaction. And now he could just lean forward and pep his head against that same name.
Yeah. I'm fine. We're fine. We're all fine here.
What was I doing then? When the name
originally wrote my name
was put here. Also, I'm not asking, but why would he miss me so much? Why would he be calling my name? Did I leave him? Or did he leave me? Were we separated for some reason?
Haven't we at least mildly discussed with even Kohai going like I died? Like, I think that was the big thing of Kohai going, Asra's going, you understand now that you died. Like, that was before that, which is why I was like, Asra, we've kind of sort of had this conversation, but also you were incredibly dodgy, and I don't know where we went with that.
I don't know if we came up with exactly that. It was, something about getting very sick, but I don't think they've revealed it fully yet.
Okay.
But again, if he also hasn't exposed any of the nature of how we knew each other. I called for you. I thought about you. I missed you. Okay. Were we friends? Was I more like not an apprentice because you're not my master? Were you more of a mentor then too and teaching me things? What were we to each other? Were we related?
That goes back into my point. Basically, part of the point of amnesia in stories, I feel like, is the story convention basically to reveal a mystery about the character themselves. And I think in this case, the fact that the character literally has no background has actually done itself quite a huge disservice because they're so desperate to have you insert your own experience that suddenly you're like, you don't even really have a tight handle on where you exist in the world, or like where the world even exists in relation to itself. Everything is so dreamy, it's not really well connected because they're afraid of saying anything that would define too much.
That's what I keep getting to, is basically that they're trying to keep it super vague. And I've heard a few people say that's so you can fill in the details in your own head. But at the same time, like, again, with a mystery, like there's a structure of a mystery. Like if you read mystery novels, watch mysteries, watch literally mystery series or mystery movies, they have to inherently have more information because that's how you figure out the solution to the puzzle.
Yeah.
A puzzle can't be put together, whether in physical pieces or in information, or like in a story without a lot of information, without all of it being there.
And again, the thing that I've asked a couple of times, and this is not to say, okay, so I will admit that this is not to say that the Arcana possibly hasn't been a good mystery in a specific way, because it has left my friend with me and I, at least, with a ton of questions. But the thing is it doesn't feel like good confusion. It feels like, what the fuck? Like, we've been through all these sort of things, we've discussed this, we've seen this stuff, people literally said this and no one's ever contradicted them, whatever.
So I'm gonna fall back on that thing again of focus on what the author tells you. But I also have a good example here. So there are stories that are not super coherent, that can't be interpreted really easy, that not everyone can come up with the same meaning for what they are. So recently, I watched a horror movie with my friend called Midsommar. I'm not going to recommend against it. It was very strange as far as movies I've seen, but really pretty and interesting. Like, I wasn't bored at all, but also, again, horror movie, okay? Yes. At any rate.
Also unconventional in that way.
Definitely an unconventional horror movie. I was going to say, but the thing is when I went to go, what do people think this is about? Because I had my own analysis and I was curious going, what's this about? A lot of people had the same opinion of kind of what it was about, but they also all described it in such different ways that while they labeled it the same, they were all talking about very different things. And the author, the writer of it themselves, said, I wanted it to be unclear. I wanted it to be non-specific. I didn't want you to have all of the answers or have everything explained. And they did that very well because they didn't tell you to care about all of those things.
Yeah, of course.
They didn't tell you to care about how much time was going by. They didn't tell you to care about which characters were keeping track of each other. They didn't tell you to care about, like, where we were located in the world or what season it was or anything.
So one of the big things is what we also mean by caring about. In media, every single thing is a choice. What you choose to write, what you choose to draw, what you choose to present to the viewer. That is the thing, quote, to care about. If you do not make any mention of, like, let's say if like Astra's parents, like, and you never have that in here, right?
Then it doesn't matter.
Then it doesn't matter.
And the thing is there's a way to leave something out where you wonder about it going, no one's ever heard about his parents, so then it's important about his parents, or they're just never mentioned at all. Like, there are some books written for younger people, probably juvenile middle grade readers, that just don't ever talk about the adults ever. And you don't wonder, where are the adults? What's happening with the adults? It's just...
I mean, some people who are assholes in regards to media really do. They really go, oh my god, I can't believe all these kids are running around. And it's like, it's a kid's story, it's intended to be for kids, about kids and their adventures. And sometimes that's hyper-exaggerated for...
And the author never makes the kids wonder where the adults are, or mentions in their own writing, where are the adults, or this world does or doesn't have adults. Yeah. It's just not important to the story.
Yes.
And so in here, it continually feels like they're flagging things as important to the story, and then never using them or contradicting them, or just then moving on without ever connecting them at all.
And there is also a thing that I've actually kind of wondered in relation to that, because sometimes mysteries will basically give you false flags, because they'll lead you off because usually your main character that you're choosing to follow, usually the detective, as it were, will get off on the wrong foot. They'll misinterpret something incorrectly. So you have that, suddenly they're going, I just had to change the angle of what I was looking at because I was so obsessed with it basically facing the left-hand side, I didn't realize that they might have been on the right.
Right. And the thing is so what I'm saying here is, in some
so you have
stories,
that aha moment.
They will specifically leave things out and make you feel as though you don't need to pay attention to them. And in here, there's a lot of things, because your character cares emotionally about them, it feels like you're supposed to care about them, and then they don't do anything with that. And so that's off-putting to me and confusing to me. And it could be an intentional style thing, but given that there are so many odd contradictions here, and that the tone and stuff changes, and that there are, like, typos and things occasionally, it feels like it's kind of just, they didn't think about that part of the story.
And again, like, as far as we can tell, and again, I don't know, I wasn't there. This is just what I understand. A lot of this game was initially designed basically between a small group of people who were all involved and all in on the thing, and they all would talk to each other all the time, and they were like, hey, we could do a game, and they established a Kickstarter for it, and that's just basically how the thing got started, right? Because they were like, we could make this thing, and they were like, we could get paid for this thing, we could do this thing. And they were like, we had all these plans. And now I'm just like, I'm wondering if basically trying to expand beyond that group, that basically, so they had so many internalized memes, as it were, like the game wasn't as accessible. The story wasn't as accessible to a wider general audience. So when the story has tried to branch out, it seems really strange, or when it doesn't bring you in on the joke, as it were, you go, what the hell is going on?
So one of the things that I've noticed in my casual interaction, specifically with Nix Hydra, because we had to interact with them quite a bit to deal with the copyright strike that happened some time back, and was that as much as I was trying not to explore the game, there was a lot of running into basically the community around the game and also their intentions with the game and stuff. And it was very much everybody assumes you know certain things already.
Yes.
Because if you're in the community at all, if you've touched the game at all, of course you know these things. And for the most part, neither of us, because we didn't do any research and didn't know anyone who'd played the game and picked it up completely blind, knew any of those things.
I mean, you picked it up because I suggested because I thought it might be interesting based on my tiny interaction with it.
Which you also picked it up blind. You didn't go, I was in the community and then I went to go play it. Some friend recommended it to me.
Yeah, I've stumbled acroove it all on my own.
And there's continually been times where even fans that actually watch this series that we're doing,
which we appreciate,
have talked about things and pointed stuff out and been like, well, this thing is true, so of course that's easy. And we go, we didn't know that thing. Where is that thing? And they're like, well, it's in the fandom. It's on their Twitter. It's, you just know it. Well, whatever, kind of thing. It's in the lore. And it's like, do you learn it in the game? And if you don't, you have to be part of the in-group to understand it, which isn't bad, but it makes a very different playing experience.
It goes, this is the exclusive group, this is your casuals, this is your filthy casuals who don't understand anything about, how deep the game goes, kind of thing.
As it were.
I don't know. It can create some level of elitism, which is not to say I've seen a lot of that, but I have heard of it, for sure.
Or again, it could just make that your enjoyment of the game is largely contingent on how much external material you read.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are really fine with and very happy with that. But I'm not a very social person, and I'm not very social online, despite being a performer. And so I never have interacted with those kind of communities my entire life, ever. And so if a story hinges on something like that, but it doesn't say in the game, go read the extra stuff here,
all right,
I always miss it. And there's been games that I've played in the past that years later, I found out the reason they were mystifying to me was because there's this huge compendium of extra information you're supposed to read that goes with them between chapter 1 and 3, that if you don't read this actual novel, the jump in story doesn't make any sense.
That was actually a thing that happened in Neverwinter Nights. So I don't know how many of you guys are familiar. There was a really old RPG game for the computer where it's a whole series, right? It's called Neverwinter Nights. And the thing is that on the occasion, they went off in between, like chapters or sections, even like DLC, or like just new games for Neverwinter Nights. They would go write literal physical fucking novels, but they would never tell you. And okay, so that's the same thing that's happened to me in Dragon Age. And while I appreciate it, I also don't like it. So the thing is the reason why I say that was because the most accessible thing a lot of people had was
just the game.
And the thing is sometimes the books sometimes are incredibly limited. They're hard to find. They can sometimes be one of those stupid little one-off shoot things that are over here.
Or it can also be a case of,
well, the author confirmed this over here, so
Or it can also be a case of, I wanted to play a game, not read a book. My interest and focus is on playing a game.
Well, you don't understand the full story. You should read this thing. I'm playing a video game.
I'm not interested in reading. I don't like books. I'm not comfortable reading books. I have a really hard time reading. I'm a young person, and I'm bad at reading novels.
Right.
I don't get much out of them.
Some people also literally have, basically, they can't read for a long time, so it'll just give them headaches. Because there is actually a difference in regards to doing video games versus doing, like, a full novel.
There's a little definite difference in engagement. Anyway, thank you for listening to all of that. If you are still here, we deeply appreciate you, and it's good to have you. And in the meantime...
Yes, I have been Scandal.
And we'll see you in the next one. I have been Lies.
Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share our stuff. It actually does help out a lot. Please also feel free to check out our Ko-Fi, Patreon, and our Twitch. There are links in the description. And thank you very much to everybody who has shared this whole series.
Yes!
It's been fantastic. We love hearing what you're saying. We're trying to get back more into the habit of responding. We've been super fucking busy. It's also been hot as hell.
Yes!
There was literally a day recently where it was 106 degrees and I want to die.
And